Hi, this is Shawn Carney, the President and CEO of 40 Days for Life, and I am at the headquarters for 40 Days for Life, the now closed Planned Parenthood abortion facility where we did the first 40 Days for Life campaign right outside of this facility in 2004. And by the grace of God, this effort of prayer, fasting, and peaceful vigil outside of an abortion facility has now gone to over 950 cities in over 65 countries around the world. This fall, we'll have the largest 40 Days for Life campaign ever. 588 cities will be participating during a time that is very crucial. You know, this building, which now serves the headquarters, this Planned Parenthood did 6,400 abortions during its life in College Station, Texas, and then we went in with our CareNet Center in College Station, Texas, and got the building and transformed it into a place that loves and protects life. And that is really what's happening at the grassroots level, and that is through the work of Nanda and CareNet. I was blessed enough to be your speaker in 2017, right after Hurricane Harvey flooded the pregnancy center, and then they invited me back and a global pandemic hit. So I must be the problem, and so I apologize. I'm so sorry Nanda and her team had to cancel the banquet, but I'm glad that we can, come together in some way so that we can support this ministry, but also take a step back from the chaos that is 2020. There's like you, there's a lot of funny things going around about 2020, and now anything bad happens, you spill milk in your kitchen and it's 2020. That's just the way it's been. But 2020 has gotten a bad rap. We see the civil unrest, we see the insanity in our streets, we see the pandemic, we see attacks on the family, we see attacks on freedom. But 2019, for why you and I are together right now in this video, that was a much worse year. That was a year that was very telling about where we are and where we aren't in the United States of America, because that was the year that we had not people on the fringe saying, we need infanticide, but we had governors, we had people in the media, we had so many in our culture saying that it was okay to leave a baby girl who survives an abortion on a table left to die. And I often called 2019 the year of infanticide, because that's what it was. Roe v. Wade in 1973 changed what it meant to be an American. It dehumanized the unborn because of their size and because of their location. And thank God, nearly 5 decades later, we are as uncomfortable with abortion as we ever have been in our entire life. But what happened was, when Roe v. Wade, when Supreme Court justices who were all men forced abortion on us, we didn't vote on this like much of Europe, it was forced on our land, it dehumanized the unborn. And so the states regulated abortion. But technically, Roe v. Wade allows abortion through all 40 weeks. And it was 2019 where we saw Governor Cuomo in New York, we saw the governor of Virginia describe infanticide in grave detail on a radio program. We saw so many politicians supporting abortion, so many in the media supporting infanticide. And just take your mind there for a little bit. We're blessed to have 8 kids. It's beautiful. And, every time one of them's born, there's that moment. There's nothing like seeing your baby girl or your baby boy the first time, and they look at you or they cry, or there's just that moment where you see your child and you look into their eyes just right after they're born, and there's nothing like it. And the United States is the best place in the world medically to have doctors and nurses and everybody, whether your baby's born 2 months early or whether there's a birth defect or whether there's some emergency. We are so equipped to take care of that baby at that moment. And certainly as parents, we would do anything. We would sacrifice anything for our children our whole life, but especially at that moment where they're completely vulnerable. And these people are saying at that moment that the human heart and that the heart of God cherishes so much, at that moment, you can turn your back and leave that child to suffocate and die on their own in the United States of America. It's absolutely insane. But it's a very dangerous sign of our mentality that if we want that baby, that it's beautiful and we can have a baby shower and we can do all sorts of wonderful, we'll protect the baby. We won't let the pregnant mom get on a roller coaster. We won't do all these things. We'll protect the unborn child. And if we don't want the baby, we can turn our back and walk away. And that's just part of the schizophrenia that we have in the United States of America when it comes to this defining moral issue that we will do surgery on a baby in utero to work on their spina bifida, to do so many things. It's amazing what we can do. At 22 weeks, 23 weeks, 24 weeks, we'll go do surgery on a baby in utero. But we can also do a late-term abortion on that same baby, and now in some places up to 40 weeks. And 2019 was very telling because what abortion advocates said for years, this will never lead to infanticide. But of course it's inevitable that once you decide you're going to play God and you're going to approve abortion at this stage and that stage, and you ignore science and reason, and you ignore the fact that abortion, that life begins at conception, then you're just moving the goal line, right? You're just saying, well, we can do it here under this circumstance, and it naturally leads to infanticide. And that's obviously an attack on human life. But it shouldn't enrage us. It shouldn't paralyze us. It should point us to Calvary. It should point us to the cross. That no one grows up wanting an abortion. No one grows up wanting to work in the abortion industry. And this is about hearts and minds. And that's not a cliche, but it is. It's hearts, minds, and ultimately souls. And that is exactly what CareNet is doing. And I've been so proud of Nanda and her leadership because it's hard under the pandemic. It's hard. I know she was going back and forth on, do we do virtual, do we do in person? And there's so many different things to keep in mind. But remember, that is, and I know not just her, but all Pregnancy Resource Center leaders, which thank God we have a great one. That's just on the sort of operation front. But on the pandemic side of things, pregnancy resource centers overall have seen a huge increase in traffic and serving the women, because what was good about 2019 is that abortions went down in 2019, one of the lowest abortion rates in our history. However, they have skyrocketed in 2020, and that's just the reality. Because of the pandemic, abortion survives on fear. So anytime there's something going on, and in Houston we see this during the hurricanes, when abortion numbers go up locally in Houston for us, when hurricanes start to come. Even Planned Parenthood Gulf Coast offered free abortions, shamefully, after Hurricane Harvey. But on something as new as the coronavirus pandemic, where there's so much uncertainty and people are weary, the fear factor goes up, and so abortions have gone up. And that means that CareNet is more important now than in any other year, because it makes a tremendous difference for these women to have someplace to go, because abortion facilities are open and they're busier than they've been in a very, very long time. And so I'm so honored to know that we have them in Houston, but we also need to be financially supporting them, because this is it at the grassroots level. The pro-life movement has so much good going on. It's a movement that gets younger every single year. It's a movement that gets larger every single year. And it's a movement that truly is a movement of converts. It's not a bunch of self-righteous Christians trying to tell everybody else how to live. Quite the opposite. It's a movement of sinners like you and I. But it's not an ivory tower position that we have. We're not intellectually superior because we're against abortion. This is the easiest intellectual position that anybody could have. It's like a 5-year-old is pro-life because there's a baby in mommy's tummy. It's the easiest position to have, but it is not about the science, unfortunately, and it's not about the facts. It's about the will. And we know throughout human history that the human heart is capable of great sanctity and virtue, and it's capable of great malice. And we see how frail the human heart can be, and that's why we put our faith in Jesus Christ. When these women walk into CareNet, it is completely different from walking into a Planned Parenthood abortion facility. This beautiful building has been remodeled twice because it was such a sterile place when we acquired it in 2014. And yet, when you walk into CareNet, it's completely different. And I think that as we see this trend in the pro-life movement, talking about hearts and minds, that the conversion gate, it's a movement of converts. It's not, people who are just intellectually pro-life, like I mentioned, but people who have experience with abortion. The March for Life is led by those women in Washington, D.C. every year who have laid on that table and had an abortion. It's led by former abortion workers like Abby Johnson, who ran this facility. And at the time, our office was next door, and when she saw a 13-week-old baby boy fight for his life and lose it, she came right next door into my office and just wept after she saw this horrific thing that she had promoted for so many years. She was the 2008 Planned Parenthood Employee of the Year. And, we've talked about Abby a lot, and they made that beautiful movie about her life, Unplanned. The movie is accurate. The movie is so well done, but the best part of Unplanned, and perhaps the hardest part of that movie, is the fact that it's true, that those events really happened, and that she really saw what she described and what you see in the movie, and that little boy fighting for his life and losing that battle. And that's what is changing hearts and minds, not judging or yelling or shouting, but the truth given in love and the truth witnessed with joy. And there's no joy inside of an abortion facility. There's no joy in doctors who do abortions. There aren't medical students who say, I want to be the best abortion doctor this country's ever seen. And you have that. You have that for oncology. You have that for orthopedics. You have so many in medical school who strive to be the best. It's not that way for an abortion doctor. Something went wrong and they need the money and they get into abortions. And so there's no joy in abortion. There's absolutely no joy. And that is instant for the women that walk in the doors of CareNet. They instantly know that there's joy. They instantly know that there's peace. And most importantly, because of your generosity, they know that there's tangible resources that they can get before, during, and after they have a baby, or if they've been through an abortion, that there's post-abortive healing available to them. All of these wonderful resources that give hope. And our world needs hope. Certainly in 2020, we do need hope, but we need clarity. We need clarity on where we came from, why we're here, and where we're going. And when we try to figure that out without God, we're going to be homeless, and we're not going to be on a journey towards heaven. We're going to just be living in chaos moment to moment. And we see that played out this year with the pandemic, with the civil unrest. We see so many who are longing for God and looking for Him in all the wrong places. And it's not in man. It's in God, and that is where we find our rest. That, as St. Augustine says, our hearts are restless until they rest in Thee. And we see a lot of restlessness right now in our culture, and CareNet brings clarity. Because the one thing right now that we know is that in the midst of all of this, in Houston, Texas, where we all live, in the midst of the pandemic, in the midst of all the craziness we see on the news, a woman then is sitting there with a positive pregnancy test, and she doesn't want to be pregnant. And that makes the stock of CareNet in Houston more important now than ever, because there's all these reasons of the world telling these women that they need to abort, and they don't have to abort. And yet CareNet is there to speak common sense to them but to do so in love. And so I'm very proud of Nanda. I'm very proud of the staff and the board. I'm sorry that I couldn't be there in person. I know this has been a year, a year like no other. But the work that CareNet is doing is more important now than ever. And I want to encourage you to give. This is risky because if they, not having the banquet, which was, they spent a lot of time making that decision. But there were so many who said, we're going to support you. We want to continue to give, or we'll still give. And now is the time to do that. So please don't just consider a generous donation if you're able to make one, but actually make it. And you can make it online. I'm going to give you the website. You can go to friendsofcarenethouston.com. friendsofcarenethouston.com, and you can donate online, and please give generously. You can also return that return card that they mailed out for the banquet. So you can take that and just mail it back in, or you can go to friendsofcarenethouston.com and give generously. And I want to encourage you to give both a one-time and a monthly gift. A one-time and a monthly gift. You know what you can give. It's online and there's no in-person event, so it's easy just to click it off and say I'm not going to give anything. But if you can give, you know what you can give, and really stretch yourselves. You may be able to give a gift of $5,000 or $10,000 or $25,000, which goes even further in a year like 2020 when they're busy and they don't have time or they have the restrictions where they can't run around and fundraise all year. And so give a one-time gift, but also give a monthly gift. And this is for local pro-life organizations, national pro-life, it doesn't matter, all ministries. These monthly donations are more valuable now than ever because you do lose gifts, because the economy has been hit hard. And here in Houston, the oil and gas industry has been hit hard, and there's a lot of people hurting. So if you are able, make that monthly commitment. Start at $10 a month. If you're currently a monthly donor, thank you, because this is the time that the staff and the board of directors needs to know, then project what is going to come in for the rest of this crazy year. And so thank you for being a monthly donor. If you're able, now's the time, go up $5, $10, $20 a month if you can as a monthly donor. But if you're not currently a monthly donor, now is definitely the time to make that commitment and give. Start at 10, start at 25, start at $50 a month, but start somewhere and pledge that every single month, because it goes a long, long way. It helps them not focus on fundraising and just do. That's one of the benefits of the pandemic and even having to cancel the banquet, is that they're focusing on the ministry, but we have to do our part and give and give online and give generously so that they don't skip a beat. This cannot be a year where pregnancy resource centers are raising less money because they're busier and there's a lot going on because of the pandemic and all the fear that's out there. That fear drives abortion numbers, and what conquers fear is hope. And there's a lot of hope inside CareNet, and there's a lot of hope in the nearly 3,000 pregnancy resource centers across the country that now outnumber abortion providers 5-1. So be sure that you go to the website friendsofcarenethouston.com, friendsofcarenethouston.com. And I am not coming back next year. It's actually for an understandable and very good reason, and I can't tell it to you, but it's the 30th anniversary of CareNet, and they have an awesome guest speaker, and I'm not allowed to tell you who it is, but it's a little teaser. 30 years we're celebrating with CareNet next year, and the guest speaker is awesome, and it's not me. It's better than me, trust me. And so you'll be very excited and look forward to that announcement once 2020 ends, and it will end. We do know that. The calendar will not change this year, hopefully. And so 2020 will end. We'll have a great celebration of life next year for the 30th anniversary, and a really fantastic, exciting speaker that you will be blessed to see. And so thank you for all your prayers. for Keynote, be sure to lift up their board and their team in prayer. Pray for us for 40 Days for Life. We'll have the largest campaign we've ever had, 588 cities. It started in our great state and is now around the world. And I've been so proud of our local leaders who in the midst of all the violence in the streets and the pandemic and all the restrictions that we've worked with local law enforcement, we've worked with so many different resources to have our campaigns, to have them safely, to go out and try to save a baby from abortion and help an abortion facility worker leave their jobs. We've had 206 abortion workers have a conversion. Abby was the 26th out of those 206. And this building is the 36th of 107 abortion facilities that have gone out of business where we've had 40 Days for Life. So a lot of good going on at the grassroots. Let's stay focused on the gospel. Let's stay focused on the scriptures, and let's stay focused on living that gospel of life and following our Lord in these troubled times. He is our focus. He is the source of our joy, and everyone in our world who is hurting or who is worried, we want to radiate His joy and His peace. And you are doing that. Keynote is doing that. Please support them. Pray for us. We will keep you in prayer. God bless you.